Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the night stream or something. I do have NASA going for me here. So we will be watching the live stream of NASA over here, which should be fun. I wonder if I can dock this. Can I dock this? Yes. All right. So, right here, we have NASA going on. So, we'll be watching that. Meanwhile, I'll be working. So, feel free to join me. I'm working on the interior illustrations for a book called Silver Pentacle, which is by an author named Nancy Hansen. And for the moment, I'm just setting up all the pictures. You am here. So it looks like we're at T-minus 31 minutes and counting over on Artemis. It's important. All right, we got this going for us tonight. Yeah, I can do that for you. Like the music? I'll turn that music down. I can also turn down, well, I think that's the lowest I can make NASA go. You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Yeah, the music always starts out here on Restream really loud, and it's very strange. I'm not sure why. It always starts out much louder than our microphones, our ground mics. All right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up the pre-drawings on this. I set up these. These are the approved sketches that I did for this book. This is a book called The Silver Pentacle, number 2. And I did the internal illustrations for the Silver Pentacle, number 1, which was put on the market, and you can get it on Amazon. And then Nancy Hansen has finished Silver Pentacle 2, which I'm doing the illustrations on. And she just finished book 3, so I am behind by a book now. So these guys were approved. So I'm going to go on ahead and start building up their setups for tonight, so that, and the cover as well. Yes. So they're talking about the, this is number, double check my numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's number 7. And they're talking a lot about the ESA section of the maybe. I mean, it costs a lot to ship out of Amazon because it's on print on demand too. Where is here though? I'm curious. There we go. All right. Yeah, but did you see it? They sent in a red team for it, and I was like, "Now that's a thing." So. NASA's red shirts are not as scary as Star Trek's red shirts, but they are pretty badass. I'm just saying. That was a hot pad. Generally speaking. Oh, you have a bad connection. Where are you coming in from? I don't even know how to. I don't even know what to call you. YV? Can I call you YV? Like Ivy? I can call you Ivy. Oh, Philippines. Sweet. Trev? Will do. Nice to meet you, Trev. Welcome to the stream. Do you use Clip Studio? If so, I am here to answer questions. I will answer anything. Well, I will answer any questions I can. I'm no guarantees that they will be, the best questions. Best answers, I should say. Save as. This is illustration 9. All right. You can totally hang with us. We are here for hanging. That's what we're doing. Ooh, that didn't come out right. Let's not do that. Let's not be. It's bad. All right. Now we have these first 3 done, and this 4th one is in the works. And I'm kind of trying to decide. I guess the best bet would be to finish the 4th one. But I do want to make sure I double check this one to make sure that it looks sufficiently personally defined happiness. That's a good question. So, to Trev, I don't know. That's a good question. How do I personally define happiness? Kind of a nice color of blue, I guess. But that's because I'm very visual. There's a nice shade of blue. There's a really pretty shade of blue. Me, myself, I'm doing pretty good right now as far as happiness in life. But it is kind of difficult. That's kind of a difficult question. To Brent, they're using the Orion system because that's what fits on the SLS. They need a different adapter for a Dragon. And the Dragon isn't designed for interplanetary travel. It's only designed for Leo. It doesn't have the shielding it needs to make it between. Now, Starship does, but we haven't gotten a successful Starship yet. So, so what's your definition, Trev? Okay, let's work this one. I don't think I found it either. Or maybe I have and just don't know it. Who knows? All right. Well, yes and no. Starship is most definitely a complicated topic. So, we're just going to go in here and we're going to finish this guy off because, like, this has been this one needs to be finished before we can move on. I'm looking for a pen to take a note with. All right. Righty. Just taking a note real quick before we go on. We're at T-minus 19 minutes until the window opens on this, so I'm curious whether the flight controllers are ready to launch Artemis 1. I guess we'll find out shortly, won't we? All right. I know my light source is right here. Yeah, as far as I can see on my board, everything looks green over here, so that's good. So I'm looking at my light source. My light source is right here. So I'm going to be moving across here and just trying to kind of color in the areas that are obviously in shadow. And I'm eating peanuts and potato chips in celebration of a rocket launch. I probably should give us a monitor for this at some point. You know what I'll do is I'll set this up. Really? You can hear it? That's kind of disturbing. My apologies on that one. I'm going to fix this real quick so that it's the same source. Give me just a second here. All right, I'll make this up big, just in case we get to that stage. I have to not, my microphone's probably, that's a little gross. I don't know if I want to do that. I'll turn the mic off when I crunch. There we go. Going back to the moon. They're going to play America the Beautiful? Weird. I mean, not that weird, I guess. But weird. Also, if they're going to play music, though, I'm going to turn off the music. My music. Because that would be really competing? I don't know. Complicated? Yeah, I'm just going in here and I'm just making sure I've got kind of... It's funny because we'll watch movies and the movies sort of ironically kind of do all the patriotic and things like that. And we kind of watch it and go, ooh, that's kind of cringe. I'm like, good thing they don't do that in real life. Then they do it in real life. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cringe. Yeah, it's not terrible, but it is kind of like, well, okay. I mean, I guess that's a thing. Okay. Knowing that the light source is here and the light source is actually between these two, I'm going to go on ahead and shade in pretty much all of him in the back here. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I kind of feel like his entire back is going to be in shadow here. Like so. The brush that I'm using, by the way, is a skin brush that I swiped from QuaCk, who, if you're a patron of his, you can get his brushes. Just kind of bring them. So I've talked about ambient occlusion before, where you have an object, and when the light strikes a corner or an edge of an object, the light will bounce back and forth into a corner, which makes things naturally, because these light rays will deflect back and forth, but they won't bounce back. So your eyes cannot see it. Um, so the light hits, and it's uh-oh, Jack Black. A lot of things. So I've talked about this before. What you get is a close darkness that hits this corner and this edge. So when I come into this edge down here, I'm trying to just kind of make it a little darker as we get closer and closer to corners, um, which includes his butt, because butt. I wonder if the moon hoaxers are going to start believing um, that Artemis is planting proof on the moon right now. Like when it gets up there, it's going to plant a lander so that we'll all believe that we were, because it's we never really went to the. I wonder. I don't know. Well, the flat earthers are pretty straight up. They're not going to believe anything happened, right? Okay, we're done with the playing music thing, so I'm going to go ahead and you know how this goes. For those of us that are used to NASA, there will be a number of holds as we come in. Yeah, flat earther. They crack me up. Hey, Bob, good to meet you. Or good to see you, not meet you. Good to see you. I've met you many times. So, yeah, the flat earthers are entertaining. Not sure what to think about them, really. I've got kind of better things to do with my life. But, I mean, I think very shortly the flat earthers are not going to have much to. I mean, you'll be able to buy a ticket. And so you can get up there and see that the earth is not, in fact, flat. But I mean, I legitimately thought that flat earthers were done, like over. Legitimately. I hope I didn't lose you, Trev. I'm going to probably bring the shadow. Again, I'm looking at my source, right? So if I got my source, I'm going to call this one. Oh, good. Yep, we'll be going into those holds and out of them. If I'm looking at this source, the light is coming from here, right? Because this is where that light bulb is, just right off the screen right here. So I'm looking at my source here, and I'm just trying to see where will it strike, right? Because it's going to be doing something like this, and it'll be hitting like this, and that's actually where we're talking about, here, right? If that light's there, Actually, this shadow probably needs to be more down here. And this needs to be more like this. Since it's here, I actually probably want it more like right there. I think that's really where that point is. So, just making sure you're still here. Good to see you're still here, Trev. All right, kind of doing that. And all I'm really doing here is just kind of getting an idea of where that area strikes. So the good news is, unlike SpaceX, we'll actually hear them do the go, no go call at the end of this hold. No disagreement there. The light's in front, so we are going to get light through here. But also we should talk a little bit about where the light is on her head. I wish this was a day launch as well. Agreed. It's been 50 years. 50 years, guys, since Apollo 17. So if I'm looking at this here, okay, looking at this, right? Yes. Apollo 17 was also a night launch. That's correct. Kind of looking at where things are kind of getting hit with light here. Right? I'm not talking about Apollo 18. I mean, for one, I didn't watch that movie. Probably would have irritated me anyway. But I could tell right away it was a jumpy movie. Right? If we look at this line here, here's where I'm going to see the difference of this. Jumpy. I don't know, it was a horror movie, so I was like, I'm out. But I would have gotten all aggravated about it. They very rarely get it right. I mean, even Apollo 13, which is one of my favorite movies, but even Apollo 13 missed some key important pieces. I don't know, maybe the music is just too much. I feel like the music is too much. All right. Okay, now we go back onto our colored or our shading level. Right? I mean, it was dramatic. It was pretty scary, but it wasn't that dramatic. All right, so moving right along with this, I've added some darker shadow through here, but I'm going to mix it and blend it a little because this is all really much more of a um, there we go. The launch scene, I gotta admit, I like the launch scene too. And it was pretty close. I mean, it wasn't like it was horrible. Just, you know, it was kind of close. That's all. So what I'm doing, if you're wondering, which maybe you are, maybe you aren't, is I'm using the right click down here to select colors around near the areas so that I can catch and blend. Right, so I'm just going in here and I'm using a light touch on this, but it gives me still this painterly feel. I could just fill this whole thing, but that doesn't give me the feel that I want out of this. I really like the feel of this being a painting. Hey, Andrew. You can join us for Apollo or for Artemis 1. Feel free to join us or work. That's what I'm doing is working. Well, I'm at it. I'm in here working. The light isn't behind her, it's between the two of them. So um, if we were to look at this room from a top down view, let's say the room is, you know, a square like this with the door. We've got a nightstand and a bed, right? She's standing here, he's here, and the light is here shining this way. Yep, T minus 10 and holding. So the light's not quite behind her. Get in here. And still just kind of go in and lighten this area up right through here. RS-25 engines are the same engines we used on the shuttle. And their 104% rating is rated at liftoff. And when they throttle up to 104 because that was their original rating. That's 4% over their original ratings. The one Buron launch. I'm a major fan of the Buron. And both of those shuttles are really cool and nifty, and I like them a lot. And it makes me sad that they're all gone. Well, they're not gone. It makes me sad they sit in a hangar and rot. That's what makes me really sad. There we go. And the fact that it was automated is always an amazing thing to me. So, Just bringing up the light level here, right here. I'm going to take just a little bit of this dark right here to kind of illustrate the cut from this light, because this light's coming across here. There we go. We're getting a lot of really good coverage on how the Artemis, yeah, right? Literally rotting in a hangar, and nobody will let us go get it. The only one that's still existing is a flight trainer, and it exists in a German museum. And it hurts to think of those boron, or think of boron. And what's the other one? Pitka. They're both in the hangar, nose to tail, and they're both just sitting there, and the hangar is dissolving around them, and they're just, it's painful. It is a horror show in my opinion. I don't know if I would get any. Like that, because her arm is going to be involved here, right? We're trying to kind of get her arm into this, and I'm just gonna bring this into this darkness here, because there's a lot of this that's kind of, a lot of this darkness going around, guys. Okay, I think I'm funny. And we're talking a lot over here about Artemis and its moon operations, but the truth of the matter is we're going to have a lot of moon operations coming in from SpaceX's Starship as well. So and we're here, and I'm going to take half the distance to here and come along this side right here. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in the hot spots here as we get closer and closer to the light source on this side. He's got a lot of hot spot that probably he does not need. I don't know. I'm having a problem with it in a lot of ways there. I'm kind of not sure about that. It is, but it's a lifting body. That is another one of those interesting designs that I like. The Dream Chaser is a fascinating spacecraft. And the fact that it's a lifting body always gets me it's a great. So we've been working on lifting bodies since the 60s. In fact, there's a very famous lifting body that we see in the very beginning of the $6 Million Man, which actually was a space flight. And that, or well, not a space flight, that was a air flight. I'm sorry. I'm drawing and not thinking. Um, but that lifting body actually crashed like it did, right? It really did crash. Although the pilot in that particular instance got out and was fine. They just used the footage for the $6 Million Man. But lifting bodies are fascinating. Um, the principle of a lifting body is that the entire aircraft is a wing. So um, rather than use a wing surface and then a tube, essentially a rocket with lifting surfaces, you build the whole spacecraft as a lifting surface. The space shuttle is, in a lot of ways, a lifting body, um, but it's not as true a lifting body as the Dream Chaser. What makes me sad is losing the Venture Star. And that one always makes me sad because that was not only a lifting body, but it had an aerospike engine, which is another fascinating engine type. Too cutting edge. I don't know, maybe. I like that I just heard Japanese in there. I was like, Watashi wa atemisu. I got that. Moreover, she didn't use the diminutive, which was cool. In Japanese, you can demure. That is true. That was its major downfall was that the H2 tanks couldn't stop cracking. They had to be a single piece unit in order for it to work properly, and they couldn't keep it from cracking. And so that was, in fact, its ultimate downfall. So you are correct. Okay, I'm going to go in here really tight and try to get kind of this zone right in here. I put in this line right here. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to really put in a tight little line to indicate this dark area. This is a very dark part of, and we'll come back in and clean it up in a minute. But for right now, I'm going to get into this. So I'm going to put in, and I'm just going to fade a little here. A lot of countries are heading off into space now, which is great. Yes, that's important. The most important piece is that we do this together. Uh, there we go. So I'm putting this dark shadow line because it's going to be difficult to. All right, you can imagine that this light is casting. Like I said, talk about ambient occlusion when you have a corner, or in this case, you have folded fabric over. The light that's coming in there is bouncing back and forth and ultimately just disintegrating inside there. So it's just obliterating. So you can't see it. So not only do we have the shadow coming in here. Oh, that was the wrong color. Not only do we have the shadow coming in here, the shadow knows, but we also have the ambient occlusion. All right. There we go. So we're adding a lot of depth to that picture, pushing her a little bit more. Kind of getting that in there and working that piece. Where are we? We're at T minus 10 minutes holding. Still in the 10-minute hold. This is a 30-minute hold, so we'll be continuing on for a little while longer because. But I'm waiting for the poll because the flight director there, flight will ultimately poll, and we'll see what happens. What drawing did I walk into? Hello, Garuda. This is an illustration for a book. It's a book illustration I'm doing for Airship 27. I think it's rather funny that this happens to be the one I happen to be working on. You'll be glad to know that this does not go anywhere. He ends up dead. So, there's that. Because this is pulp, and I love pulp sometimes as it's just an entertaining, always super fun genre. So, anyway, here we are. So that's where you walked into. Okay, I'm going to go on ahead for this overlay layer. I'm going to have one more layer on top, which is normal. And this is my all white layer. For this, I'm going to go on ahead and use my G pin for this because this will be the reflection of this light in her eyes. Right? I'm going to add that in right here. I'm going to just give the scalia of her eyes. Right? It is totally a Rockford Files thing. Ends up dead, as usual. Okay, so I'm just putting in right here across her scalia, and that's the white of the eyes there. And I might put just a touch right here and a touch on her lips. Now, the truth is that she would probably have lipstick on, so we're going to go ahead and darken up her lips. But we need to switch back to my skin brush here. Okay. Bingo. Scleria. I can't say it. I'm lucky that I can get anywhere near it. Scalera. But thank you for the correction, Bob. I just can't say it because I suck. It's all right. I'll get there. It's probably Scalera. Really how things work in my world. And left side of her nose, I agree. This side right here should probably be more shaded. We'll take a look at that and get in there and a little darker. Scalera. Can you put a phonetic on there? Or there we go. Just give her a little of that. Bob is absolutely right. We need to kind of get in here and darken this area. Whoa, too much. Too much brush. Too much brush. Let's come back through here like this. All right. Aurora. Yeah. Whoa. So I'm going to bring this back around and come back out like so. If applicable. You know, that's a weird thing. So I actually don't like Control Z. I'll just go in and then lay on like you would if you were actually painting. And I feel like it gives a lot more like it gives it a little bit more of a painterly feel, because like I can come over here and just kind of do this and then lay it in, and I'm gonna broaden out her cheeks a little for this, and it works really well. It looks nice and looks just fine. So um why are we waving flags? We're waving flags. Yes. We're even going to try to get this plane of her nose through here. Just come back around like so. Here we go, just like that. And we'll catch right here because the light's going to come across her nose and go right there. Yep, actually, Airbus it's 7 a.m. for Airbus. I'm still thinking that it is. It's going to be quite a bit. Where are we? Schwarzenegger. And we got another hold coming in. There we go.
Here's a look at the spaces and tools that will help us to do that.
I really want to be gentle with this and not put too much detail in. But I do feel like looking at this from a distance now, I want to put more.
So it's a great way to help drive technology development for the next generation of spacesuits and geology sampling tools.
There's these facilities that help us train like we are on the lunar surface. You know, these 1.6G offload systems for putting people in the aquatic environment are great ways to train the mobility part. Right?
I'm just going through here and I'm just darkening this a little bit. Right? Because, I mean, if you think about the planes of the face, this section right through here is not, it's going to be turned the other direction. So it's going the other way. So I'm just going to come back around for that.
In the intervening decades since Apollo, we've been training astronauts to fly to the International Space Station because when they're on the ISS, they spend time observing the Earth.
Now, I'm assuming she's got makeup of some sort on. So go back in here with a much darker gray. I'm going to do, just kind of go in here and do this. Put in eyeshadow. As she is, of course, your kind of pulp assassin. So as a pulp assassin, I would assume she is fully made up and has all of her makeup going and all that stuff. So put that in. Right. That's where we are. All right. Really, I'm kind of just biding my time because I don't want to start up the next panel on this one until really kind of doing it until tomorrow. Yeah, she's a femme fatale. And not only that, she's sort of your classic femme fatale. Like, it's pulp. So, she's not, I wouldn't say tropey per se, because it's not positive, but she is certainly.
Also helps us develop technologies that make our everyday life that much better.
We think there might be volatiles present at the South Pole. By using these volatiles, we'll be able to do things like create drinking water, create rocket fuel, launch astronauts back.
All right.
We just heard there. Comes with a lot of responsibility. I think for all of us, it's a huge honor to be a part of these teams, and the work we're doing is so critical in supporting scientific discovery on the ground. So on the International Space Station, we're a national laboratory. Our crew executed over 350 different scientific experiments.
Do you want scritches?
And so when you think about that, it's years of work to get one of these payloads or an experiment on the space station. And sometimes that's
Visited by George.
holding in your hands and executing. And so being prepared for those moments is really important, and understanding how to bring the team to the ground into solving complex problems. We take that really, really seriously. And of course, we want to share what that experience is like. And we have few people that have been able to go to space. And
So, every so often, I get visited by George. This is George. Right, George? As in, hug him and squeeze him and call him George. Which is good because he likes to actually be hugged and squeezed. Well, maybe not squeezed, but certainly hugged. The other thing I'm thinking about is the other side of the zipper here is probably going to be bright.
If I was in that role, it's something I would take really seriously. I think the iconic words of Neil Armstrong, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, are something that we all know, whether you witnessed that moment or not, or it happened before you were born, or like for me. I think we all have that embedded in our psyche, those important words. So I think it's something that I would have to think a lot about. Yeah, that would be in the history books. That would be something you're remembered for. Oh my gosh, I'd be so anxious delivering it, even after I've thought of what I want to say, like to actually open my mouth and say it from the purpose of the room. Wow. Yeah, that we'll have to think about that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see another question here.
Knowing that the zipper is probably lit up a little.
That's an awesome question that I wish I knew the answer to. David and I were actually talking about that earlier. Maybe up here. It's a continuation of the same suit that we used during the shuttle era, and I was kind of hypothesizing that maybe it's to help forces if for some reason when we landed in the water.
Maybe. It's interesting. And the answer actually is that the spacesuits are yellow or orange because it's safety orange. And it's because before Challenger, the suits were blue. They were flight suits. and um, borrowed from the Air Force. Then once Challenger happened, the Challenger disaster happened, there was some serious thought about the idea would have to rescue astronauts from the ocean. So, and they may not even be connected to the spacecraft. And so, knowing that that was a possibility, the spacesuits were turned safety orange because it is easier to see. But if you also look on any color wheel, including the color wheel that you cannot see here because it's behind my image, um, the orange is the diametric opposite of blue. So the one thing that will stand out most and contrast the most is orange. So international orange is easier to see, absolutely. But it's the reason that she probably doesn't know about this is because it comes directly from the Challenger disaster. And typically astronauts try not to dwell on Challenger and Columbia, and understandably so. So that's why she's not that versed in it, and that's okay. I don't blame her. Probably wouldn't be that versed in it either.
Also known as Prime One, will robotically lift the ice and other resources below the lunar surface.
Good night, Brent. Yeah, I'm going to keep broadcasting until midnight, but we haven't cleared the hold yet, so I don't know.
Used to produce propellant and breathable oxygen for future explorers. Under NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, the agency selected intuitive machines to fly and land Prime 1 on the moon's south pole. Prime 1 will land near the Shackleton crater to drill into the lunar soil in an area that could contain water ice. Prime 1 is made up of two instruments: Trident, the regolith and ice drill for exploring new terrain, and M-SOLA, the mass spectrometer observing lunar operations. Trident will drill up to 3 feet into the lunar surface, extract lunar soil, and bring it up to the surface. Trident drills to its maximum depth in multiple phases, stopping at different increments.
Yeah, I figure the window will close. Either I will go to bed and give up on it or not. I'm even now I'm kind of wondering whether I want to stay up for TLI, because I think TLI happens even like a couple of more hours after ignition. TLI is, I know, silly work. TLI is translunar injection, and it is when a spacecraft decides to break out of Earth's gravity and moves into lunar gravity, or at least heads for lunar gravity. But translunar injection is definitely down the road on the timeline. I'm actually not 100% sure where, but I know where TLI was on Apollo, and it's a long ways in. Oh, good. We may actually hear what, when, and where. I think it's interesting that they've decided to do that first hit in Shackleton. Shackleton, if you guys follow For All Mankind, Shackleton is actually where For All Mankind decided to head down, which makes sense. Shackleton's well researched, or For All Mankind is well researched. Shackleton would have been on the to-do list of Apollo 20 or 21 if we'd continued on with our flight missions. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like an hour and a half in. Ugh, I'm not doing that. I got to go to bed somewhere along the line.
Next up, we'll get core stage separation. We've got 4 main engines with your MECO, main engine cutoff. Those engines will shut down, the core stage will separate, drop away. It's eventually going to splash down in the ocean. And that hands over the propulsion duty to this, our upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ITPS. Its first job is to execute what's known as a perigee raise maneuver. So the perigee is the lowest part of your orbit. You have perigee, is the low part, and the apogee.
Yeah, I figured that would be way past my bedtime. All about watching stuff. I'm not all about watching stuff all through the night. I'll see what happened in the morning.
Flying it in space for the second time, the first time in this fully integrated stack with SLS. You'll be able to look at all of Orion's systems, make sure those solar arrays are capturing the sun's energy, turning it into electrical power for Orion's system. Make sure the communications are working, all of our guidance, navigation, and control. That is your time to make sure you have a healthy spacecraft before you do something that is going to send it to the moon. And that's next up on our list. That's the
Me too.
injection. For today's launch profile, that's going to be firing for about 18 minutes of that single engine in the upper stage. Now that engine is optimized for a vacuum, which is producing about 24,000 pounds of thrust. It's a pretty big engine, and it's doing that because we need enough energy to be able to send our payload, Orion, beyond the low Earth orbit and send it on a path to head out to the moon. And after that burn is complete, ITPS separates. It's going to do what's called a disposal burn. So it's going to send itself on a path from Earth around the moon.
I think that's fascinating that they're doing heliocentric orbits or heliocentric disposal burns. I think it, well, yeah, and it has been since the days of Apollo. So Shackleton makes some sense for all things. I just giving props to For All Mankind because they did their homework. But it's clear to me that the guys at For All Mankind, they're most certainly geeks, and so I didn't expect any less really of them. I just like the fact that, you know, life imitates art. All right, now we're here. We've got a lot more color in here. It looks a lot better.
And then we call it retrograde because the moon orbiting planet Earth in this direction, going in a counterclockwise fashion, we're going to be entering into a clockwise orbit around the moon,
which makes it twice the speeds.
Now to do that, we're going to get in close, we're going to dip in.
Sea Dragon.
We're going to be about 80 miles, 80 miles off the moon's surface.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. Okay. the service module.
Its job largely done. That burns up in the Earth's atmosphere and reveals on the crew module the heat shield. I circled it earlier. This is goal number one. The Artemis mission is testing this heat shield at lunar return velocity, because when we make that trip around the moon and we come back, we are going in speeds of excess of 20,000 miles an hour. So when we slam into the Earth's atmosphere, it's going to heat that thing up to, more than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the Artemis 1 profile we're going to do this morning is a skip re-entry. So basically, you can come in too shallow and skip off the atmosphere, too narrow, and we're going to do what's known as ballistic entry, which really heats things up. We're going to do kind of a mix. We're going to skip once off the atmosphere, and that we're still going to get the heat, but that helps to reduce some of the fuel on the crew. Once you're through that, you get to parachute deploy. There's 11 parachutes in total that are going to slow Orion down before it splashes down.
Yeah, why was Krantz near Apollo 23? Was it 23 or 24? I thought it was 24 that went boom. Might have been 23. Might have been 23. I'm not going to argue with you. Andrew, what happened to your DS9, bro? Oh, that's right. But your kitten is freaking adorable. I'm just saying. However, George has taken more than his share of plasma leaks. And I guess drive plasma instead of blood.
Very comprehensive look at that. Thank you so much, Dan. If you're just joining us, welcome to Kennedy Space Center and our live coverage of Artemis 1, an uncrewed flight test that was a furnace to the moon in nearly 50 years.
True?
Now, some might ask, why the moon? Well, here's why.
Because we don't have any other satellites. We go to the moon, do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. I mean, weren't you there? I was there. Has to be HAHD, hard. I'm going ahead and just put this line right here. Do. Hard. We are easily entertained. There we go. Bring this up a little. Mars is calling, guys. Somebody needs to answer that. Okay. See you later, Andrew. Good night. Here we go.
Pre-positioning when we rotate with the box. Starting with finding blocks. Sure, finding straight.
Okay. I think it's interesting. I've been listening to this whole run here on this, and it's fascinating to me to see them talk about all, or have all these little like programettes, little things.
People from near and far, young and old, just really excited to hopefully see this historic flight. So now.
Okay.
Years later, through my flying career,
I think I'm pretty happy with this illustration. We're going to go on ahead and go.
But basically, I wanted to be here. I was here for the first moon launch, the last moon launch back when Uncle Gene Vernon, our family friend, went to Apollo 17. So I wanted to be here for this because it's kind of in our family, in our blood, and hopefully I'll be around for the next one.
And this is my Hunko.
Incredible. So you have NASA actually in your DNA. Grew up with the program.
Yeah. I mean, most of the German scientists, the kids sat in my lap, my friend Schrödinger, and my father flew with von Braun because he was a general aviation pilot as well. So they get off work and fly, and they were in Life magazine together, National Geographic. So it was fun. I literally got to knew Al Shepard, all the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo guys, and it was an honor. I would have loved to have been an astronaut, but I went a different route, and I can still come here and see them.
We get it. We're so grateful, so thrilled to see you here tonight, and I'm so excited that you will be able to actually compare the last launch and the sound of the last one with the.
Okay, I'm going to call this one solid and good.
Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been an honor to meet you, and Megan, we're going back to you. Yeah, thank you. much for sharing that. That was such a fun story. Here we are now at Space Center Houston. This is a live look inside of the visitor center there. Lots of people hoping to see the launch today. I love this guy in the front with his NASA shirt representing. And again, just seeing children and young and old, just all these people who feel captivated and are excited about our next giant leap into space. So glad to have them here. Oh my gosh, I love it. The team in Marshall and Huntsville there is always ready for their shot.
I promised.
That's the home to the SLS program office. So they have a dog in the fight tonight. Being part of this launch.
I promised I would give a try view of the QuaCk.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, I'm so glad that they're there. Again, these visitor centers are closed to the public, but you know, the people there decided to hold a watch party. Well, look, our friends in Germany are ready for us inside. There you go.
Okay.
So these are employees of Airbus. Airbus is the main contractor for the European Space Agency, and together they provided the European service module for the Orion spacecraft. So really, we should be applauding them. They should be applauding. Thank you so much, guys, for your contribution to the program, and can't wait to see Orion and SLS.
You need to have some polling that takes place. I'm pausing now because I'm listening in to the teams as they communicate. In this launch window, which we're currently
That's what I'm thinking too.
26 minutes into, it's 2 hours long, it runs until 3:04 a.m. Eastern Time. We have what's called 40 cutouts. And in those cutouts, they range from about a second to about a minute. These are times where they can't launch.
Yeah, loop A.
Just heard from NASA Test Director Carlos Monge. I'm sorry, Jeff Spaulding. Jeff Spaulding's on. He swapped out. There are currently no constraints to launch. Great news. Again, no constraints to launch. And they're getting ready to pick up with a poll to determine readiness for launch.
We're just waiting here to see what that is coming through.
Okay, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding getting ready to conduct the readiness poll, so we are getting close. We're going to pull up the audio now so that you can listen in.
You go. And Ron. Rockets go. All right, copy all. And Launch Director NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
I copy all entities. At this time, I will proceed with my poll. An additional 232, this is the launch director performing the final poll for launch. Verify no constraints and go for launch. EGS Program Chief Engineer.
EGS Program Chief Engineer verifies that the EGS, SLS, and Arroyo Program Chief Engineers have no constraints and are go for launch.
Copy, Greg. Thank you. EGS Chief Safety Officer.
The EGS CSO verifies the SLS Orion and EGS CSOs have no constraints and are go for launch.
Copy, John. Thank you. Range weather.
Weather has no constraints and weather is go for launch.
Copy LWO. And mission manager.
We're 9232.
And mission manager. Launch director.
Launch Director, Mission Manager 232. The mission management team has been pulled. You have a go to proceed with terminal count and launch of Artemis 1.
Called it.
I copy all. Thank you. And NTD. Launch director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, and for the Artemis generation, this is for you. At this time, I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
Copy, Launch Director, and thank you. All right, we do have a couple of steps to configure, and then we will be ready to resume the clock. CVSE, NTD. CVSE here. Initiate recording of Orion cameras at this time. Don't worry.
They're not going to let us hear the rest of those standbys. Aw. That's a bummer.
Getting ready to get that new T0 time.
It should be within the next, say,
The poll that you heard, the NASA Test Director's poll.
All right, and we have verified no cutouts at this time. And all personnel, we are going to resume the clock. GLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. Countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1. GLS mainline
has been initiated.
Okay,
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
we are T-minus 10 minutes away from liftoff of Artemis 1. As you can see, the clock is now moving. Let's put that up. T-minus 9 minutes and 47 seconds. The L-minus 18 hold back show
47, 44 is what we looked up to. Affirm.
I don't know what the steps are for Artemis. I'll have to learn those.
01:47:44, 1:47 a.m. Eastern Time, and 44 seconds.
1:47:44.
We went straight into terminal count.
That was pretty convenient. 9 minutes and counting.
Liftoff now, 9 minutes. The computer and software that is doing all of the commanding and monitoring of the space system.
All right, let's light this candle.
We'll hear call-outs from the GLS operator, Alex Pantelos, as well as NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding. GLS is pre-tensioning the umbilicals at this very moment. You can see them as they run down the rocket. That's getting them ready to detach. As liftoff goes on, we will swing away and let go of the rocket in a clockwise direction.
They still move the same direction. I guess that makes some sense.
T-minus 8 minutes at count. The GLS performing up to 100 commands per second, including configuring ground systems for power transfer to the rocket.
I wonder if it still has the old IU.
Cameras recording video inside and outside the crew module to collect data for engineers. Purging the Asper booster with high flow nitrogen. Clear out any hydrogen gas that may be there.
Ooh, this is kind of exciting. Big rockets are great.
Crew access arm is already retracted. When there is crew doing Artemis 2, it would happen in T-minus 6 minutes. But out of abundance of caution, we went ahead and retracted the arm well ahead of liftoff. I want to point your attention to the base of the mobile launcher. Something wasn't done to reduce the power and the pressure caused by the rocket's ignition and thunderous sound. It could damage the rocket. So the ignition overpressure and sound suppression system will flood the mobile launcher with water. We'll see that sequence start at T-minus 17 seconds. Now coming up in less than 30 seconds, the ground launch sequencer will start bringing the high energy systems online, starting with core stage pressurization.
Right, exactly. It's far fewer. It doesn't need to be held up as much because of the SRBs. Because it sits on the skirts of the SRBs.
Listen to the next one.
GLS, go for core stage tank pressurization.
Okay.
The core stage tank is now pressurizing the flight levels. The replenish valve to the liquid hydrogen tank now closing. The liquid oxygen tank will come a little later. Now we're arming the Orion ascent payloads and transfer to internal power.
About the same time as the shuttles transfer internal too.
The launch abort system, or LAS jettison motor, is now armed. On this flight, the abort motor is inactive because there is no crew on board. Up next is the flight termination system, or FTS, which gives the Space Force the ability to disrupt the rocket if it goes in the wrong direction. Puts us on for that.
GLS, go for FTS.
GPS arm. The flight termination system is now armed. Coming up at 4 minutes and 40 seconds, a big moment. This is where the RS-25 engines
Gimbal.
lead go to high flow. It's a little tricky to dial in.
And they'll need to gimbal.
GLS, go for LH2 high flow lead check. Good word, we passed that. The cryo team got the LH2 engine lead pressure loop dialed in. They are now at the right temperature for launch. Countdown continues. T-minus 4 minutes, 15 seconds. Up next, GLS fires up the K2s. These are high-speed turbines which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25s.
And then we'll get a gimbal check.
And the core stage auxiliary power unit start.
GLS is go for core stage AP start.
That now leads to the thrust vector control test at T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's where we'll
proceed now.
We'll gimbal the engines.
The engines gimbal at the bottom of the core stage.
I haven't seen a camera down there yet to check for gimbaling. I haven't really seen them switch to an underside view.
T-minus 3 minutes and 10 seconds, you will hear the go for purge sequence forward. That's a helium purge with the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve, getting the air and moisture out.
That's still a monster rocket. That is a big, big rocket.
GLS will go for thrust sequence forward. And in just a few seconds, GLS will close the core stage LOX vent, liquid oxygen. The white vapor cloud caused for super cold gaseous oxygen condensing the water in the atmosphere will disappear. You see it coming out there now. And there it goes, closed. LOX vent closed, pressurizing the core stage LOX tank to flight levels. Coming up.
APUs.
Second, for that thrust vector control actuator.
Those little pulses, that's from the APUs. There they go. They're gambling in.
4 core stage RS-25 engines gimbaling around, testing the ability to steer the rocket into space. We will operate at 109% performance. Each RS-25 throwing down a 500,000 pounds of thrust. All 4, 2 million pounds. Altogether with the boosters, 8.8 million pounds of thrust.
GLS go for upper stage to internal power.
Now the upper stage is gone.
Switching to internal.
So power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery power. The same milestone is coming up for the core stage at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds.
ICPS is at flight level now. That would be what we'd call the S4B booster in an Apollo.
Go for core stage to internal power.
It will be.
The rocket's core stage, which houses the 3 flight computers, is now on battery power. So there is no more hold time available because there's no more margin on the battery. So if we have a hold, we have to recycle back to T-minus 10 minutes and recharge those batteries. The count continues. A note now, shortly after liftoff.
1 minute.
Shortly after liftoff, Mission Control Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague, Leah Cheshire, will take over commentary. T-minus 50 seconds and count. Coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, the GLS will hand off control to the ALS, as with the autonomous launch sequencer. On board the rocket, it will take over command and control of the rocket. But the ALS will check, make sure there's no holds coming from the ground up until T-minus GLS. Go for ALS. And we are go for ALS.
Okay, transferring over to internal power.
Now counting down the liftoff of Orion on its maiden voyage to the moon.
So the rocket now has control of the launch.
Watching no longer cycle the count. Sound suppressor wall now closed under the ML. And here we go. And hydrogen burn off the tires initiate. 7, 6, 5, 4 stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition.
That is a monster.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
That is a monster. Look at that thing go.
All 4 Rs comprising this multiple stations for solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour. As we have put control on all systems, mission control vehicle and all these calls so far, about 30 seconds into the flight mark is 5 minutes. Our final time is before our vehicle passing past 2 and about 1 minute and 9 seconds into launch. Exit brake, fuel, power vehicle,
You have to throttle back to 75% in order to pass through max Q. What you mean the roll program? 104.
The next major milestone will be for the solid rocket booster to cut off injection in about 2 minutes and 11 seconds
Mhm.
into flight, so about 30 seconds from now. Again, right here in mission control system is to continue monitoring for flight line. We're now 16 miles downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, traveling over 2,800 miles per hour.
You can come up here and watch. You should come up and set.
Booster jettison and shortly thereafter.
There they go. Looks like a clean separation. SRBs are returning.
Information that the solid rocket boosters have separated these 177-foot boosters. Now the pulse wave continues to power the flight of Orion, all 4 RS-25 engines firing, traveling over 3,400 miles per hour, 46 miles downrange.
Ooh, I don't like that.
2 minutes and 36 seconds into the flight. Hearing nominal calls here in Mission Control Houston. We've still got 4 good engines on the core stage. Next up, we'll be looking for the service module fairing to separate into 3 15 by 16 foot fairing panels, providing structural support for second and service module. It will separate about 3 minutes and 11 seconds into flight, and very shortly thereafter will be followed by the launch abort system separation.
Right? I was just thinking that. I was like, SpaceX has got like all these cameras inside it. And we're watching like a space shuttle launch.
We just had confirmation that the service module fairing has separated.
There we go. There's your downlink.
Custom pyros have fired, separating those from Orion as well. For future crew members, we
Right.
just heard the call for 3 engine press, meaning if SLS were to lose an engine at this point in the mission, we could still achieve a nominal mission. We would just have an extended main engine cutoff time. However, we still have 4 good engines, all at maximum thrust right now, powering the first flight of Artemis at 5,200 miles per hour, 148 miles downrange.
Mm,
We're 4 minutes and 16 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1. So far, we've had a clean ascent. We saw the solid rocket boosters jettison about 2 minutes and 11 seconds after liftoff. Shortly after, we had service module panel fairing separate, as well as the launch abort system. The launch abort system was inert for this flight, except to perform this separation. Those 4 core stage engines will continue to fire and power the flight of Artemis 1, now traveling over 6,800
I agree
miles
with
per
you,
hour,
Bob. I mean, it's like
121 miles
they
downrange.
just didn't bother to upgrade anything out there.
Flight controller reports that the engines are looking good.
I mean, we have a white dot.
(8,800 miles per hour).
I would hope so. They've got an ESA upper stage. That's all European. Be really unpleasant if it wasn't KPH somewhere. Right? Even Roscosmos. Even Roscosmos. Oh. Seriously.
Coming up on 7 minutes.
So, Garuda, does that make it a space palm?
All 4 engines continue to throttle down. The solar array deployed approximately 18 minutes after liftoff, but before Orion stretches its wings, let's check back in with our friends at Kennedy Space Center and hear all about what it was like to hear the rocket roar off.
I mean, that seems like...
Megan and Kayla, I've got to hear it all.
Right? That looks like it's Kerbal. They probably built it in Kerbal space. Okay, why didn't I hear anybody from Houston on that loop? Like, I heard nobody in Houston at all.
And I kind of feel giddy and speechless. I don't even know how to explain how I'm feeling right now. I felt
Right? I mean, not hearing anybody on the loop in Houston. And I know she kept saying that everybody was... I don't know. That was just weird. I mean, I think that's the biggest... I think, Bob, you totally put your finger on it. It's like, I've seen better work out of Roscosmos. And I've watched Soyuz go up and been able to track it better. Right? Because Kerbal is the best program ever. Kerbal's the best. I mean, Friday, you don't have like 3 or 4 Kerbals still stuck up there. Because, for me, poor Jeb. I mean, poor Jeb. Just saying. Because he's the best. Okay, guys. Well, that actually timed up really nicely because I usually end my show at about midnight and go to bed. I'll check in on the morning and see whether they deployed solar panels or not. But judging from what we have right now coming from NASA, I doubt seriously we will see anything. Which, I don't know. Maybe with government agencies, you can't buy GoPros. Who knew? I mean, so all they needed to do was stick a GoPro on it, Like NASA, couldn't you just afford a GoPro? Right. I hate to say how many times I built something in KSP and it's gone kablamo in a spectacular and entertaining way, because that's what Kerbal Space Program is all about in its core. And we all know that. So, well, there you go, guys. Thank you for joining me during this time. I really appreciate all of you guys there. I don't know whether I've still got Trev out there or not. I hope so. Hope you stayed with me, Trev. This is a fascinating night. I don't usually spend the entire night streaming NASA, but this time I was spending the entire night streaming NASA. So we'll see what happens. For those of you who are wondering, I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And we will continue working, and you can join me if you wish. But also be aware, but for those of you who are listening in, that my ending credits are a little loud, so you might want to turn the volume down before I go. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning. And as I often say, but is much more appropriate, Scott Manley's recap. Much more appropriate now to say, keep your eyes on the stars. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.